Hello. We are live. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Classroom Without Walls. What is school for? On this show, I interview leading education professionals, parents, and students, education leaders to come here. We discuss, debate, and disrupt education. The goal is to really figure out ways that we can future proof the next generation. And today, I'm really, really excited and honored to have Olivia on the show and to talk about her journey as a self-directed learner. And for those of you who don't know Olivia Grace Barnes, she is an 18-year-old self-directed learner. And I discovered her through LinkedIn. Of course, I love LinkedIn. And I'm just, as soon as I discovered you, Olivia, I'm just immediately like impressed. It was like, wow, who is this amazing lady, self-directed learner? And she's also the author of a book titled Overlapping Worlds. And she's also the creator of Black Life, Blue World, which were both of the things we're going to learn more about. And most importantly, we're going to dive into her journey as a self-directed learner. And I have a list of questions. I can't wait. But before we dive into the interview, and I want to invite everyone to join us live on Amazon Live. When you join us live on Amazon Live, you will see a list of books that I have carefully curated for parents and students. All the books are related to disruptive education. And so you can check them out. Just enter in your browser, classroomwithoutwalls.live, and you can watch us live on Amazon. And also a big shout out to StreamYard for being sponsor of the show. StreamYard is really my favorite third party to go live on social media. And in the comment section, there's a link for you to check out StreamYard for free for 2 weeks. So check them out and let me know if you have any questions. So without any further ado, Olivia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, super excited. I love, I have interviewed lots of business leaders, but really what brings joy to my heart is talking to young people like you, because you guys are truly the future. So I really want to kick off our conversation by diving a little bit deeper into your journey as a self-directed learner. So what inspired you to be on this journey that is so non-conventional? So can you please share with us a little bit more about your educational journey?
Yeah, so ever since like kindergarten, I attended a sort of hybrid school where I would go to school 2 days a week and do my homework the other 3 days of the week. And so I did that from kindergarten all the way up to eighth grade. And I really discovered there like just the balance between learning and exploring, learning in the classroom, your traditional classes, math, history, English, etc., while also learning outside of the classroom things that you wouldn't be able to learn going to museums, going to parks, going to, I don't know, reading books, things like that, talking to different people. So that really gave me a really beautiful sense of balance. And then my freshman year of high school, I was accepted to the Visual and Performing Arts School here in Houston, HSPVA, in the creative writing department. So I loved writing, and so I was super excited. So I decided to go. And it was an amazing experience just in terms of the amount of creativity and just talent that was at the school. But what I realized, like as soon as I started like going there and had classes there, I realized that public school was very limiting in terms of what I was allowed to study, what I was allowed to learn. And coming from an educational background where I had a lot of freedom and flexibility to explore things outside of the classroom, all of a sudden, I had a ton of work after school, like probably an hour and a half of creative writing work after school on top of all my academic classwork. And it was overwhelming. And I realized that this was not how I wanted to spend my high school experience. Another thing that really stood out to me in that freshman year of high school was how a lot of the learning and a lot of the projects were geared solely towards college. They weren't geared to learn. They were geared to create a resume, go to these classes, go to do these volunteer things, join these clubs, so you can look good on a resume. And you can look good for college. And that kind of annoyed me because I was interested in learning. Right? There's a lot of things that I'm curious about. And so all of a sudden, when all these things were like, no, we don't, like, we're not interested in you learning. We're interested in you getting this really nice resume for college. It just stuck out to me. And so after that, I left out that high school and started, I call it a self-designed school. So I still attended classes. I did all the like the standard classes, but I did them at various institutions. So I had my history and English classes at a private school here in Houston. I had my science classes at a university as a dual credit class. Did math online, did Spanish with one of our friends, and so just sort of balanced my schooling out like that. And then after that, during that year, my dad had been really sharing with me different stories of people who had decided to self-direct their learning, who had decided to step away from traditional education, and explore their unique interests and really go after that. And so hearing all these different stories, I sort of started thinking about what if I did this? And he would ask me questions like what are you curious about? Like what change do you want to make in the world? And so after he started asking these questions and my mind started turning, I decided to start self-directing my learning. I think you would call it my junior year of high school, although my high school has been so untraditional, I don't know if you can call it junior year. But I started self-directing my learning in my second year of high school and really went into my interests in marine biology, sports, art, and then about 6 months after I started self-directing my learning, my dad introduced me to this book writing program, and that was the program that I joined and journeyed through that program and ended up writing a book. And then this past year, I've been been working a lot more and been getting ready for another program that I'm entering in that's similarly self-directed. And so, yeah, a crazy high school educational experience, but I really enjoy it, and I've learned a lot from it that I don't think I would have been able to learn inside the classroom.
Wow, you're just like everything you just said. By the way, this is a title to her book. And so everything you just mentioned is like music to my ears. It is fascinating because, before we went live, I was just sharing with Olivia about my own journey. I taught in the classroom for 15 plus years. And I think most students are just really learning for the sake of, starting like building up their resume. And I don't think many people enjoy learning for the sake of learning, right? And when I did my TEDx talk, I said that the only question I got so much from my students was, Dr. I, will this be on the exam? So that is really the question that haunted me for quite a few years. And so can you please share with us? I know you shared a little bit. What, based on your observation, what are some of the differences? I'm sure in your circle, you probably have also other self-directed learners in your life. So what do you think are some of the biggest difference between people like you guys, like self-directed learners versus traditional school kids?
Yeah. So I think the biggest difference is how prepared we are for life after, just real life. You think about working, you think about the responsibility that's needed there, the leadership, the just being self-driven, taking care of things without having to be told what to do. I think that kind of initiative and that kind of integrity is only really found when you are responsible for your own learning and whenever you're curious enough to say, okay, this is a topic that I'm really interested in. What can I do to learn more about that? And I think part of the problem with traditional school is that it just teaches people how to follow directions and how to check the boxes. And I was a very good student. Like I was a high A student in all my classes, did a lot of pre-AP, AP classes. So I really tried to challenge myself, but it was still like, okay, like you were saying, like what's going to be on the test? Like here are the things that I need to memorize. I memorize it for the test, and I'm really good at memorizing. So it was kind of easy for me. I just memorize it for the test, and once the test was done, let it go. I forget it. And that doesn't really prepare you for life after college, life in the workforce, because to be a successful engineer or successful individual, successful entrepreneur, successful in your life, you're going to need to take initiative. You're going to need to be curious. You're going to need to do things without having to be told them. And I think that's one of the things that really sets me and my sister and other self-directed learners apart from traditional students is that our ability to take initiative to say, okay, this is a problem. Let me figure out how I can solve this, and not necessarily waiting around to be told what to do or when to do it or how to do it. Yeah.
I love it. By the way, you got some lots of great comments, and thank you. I think it was Dan for joining us live. Yeah, absolutely a fascinating journey, and I love how you said, self initiation, which is like I review job applications all the time. I see more and more companies are definitely hiring for skills than that piece of paper. So for the skills they hire, one of the top ones is always self initiation. So it's really nice that you have, really take in charge of your own learning. So did you mention that your sister is also on a similar path?
Yeah, she is. So it's a little bit different than mine. She's still taking a couple classes at different institutions, but she has gone more self-directed. So doing different. So she's interested in acting. She's
Mhm.
interested in like homelessness, and so she's been interviewing people around those things, finding internships, finding different acting gigs around the city. Actually, had her first like paid acting role a couple months ago, which was
Oh
incredible.
my
Something that she
gosh.
wouldn't have been able to do in a traditional school because the hours, the different rehearsal times would conflict with school. And so it's kind of these things where it's like self-directing your learning gives you experience. It gives you
Mhm.
opportunity to learn and explore. And I think that's what my sister and I are really trying to step into is exploring these things that we're interested in, and just going all in.
Yeah. Do you feel like you enjoy learning more this way than sitting in the classroom the traditional way?
Definitely, definitely. I cannot tell you how many times just literally had meltdowns around tests, around papers, around quizzes, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna get an A, I'm not gonna get a 90 or 100, whatever the grade was. And now it's like, okay, that didn't work very well. Let me figure out how to do it differently. Let me figure out how to do it better without
Mhm.
this just, I don't know. It's not a very realistic expectation to be like, okay, you have to get this perfectly the first time or you fail, right? In life, you
Mhm.
at least self-directing your learning gives you a little bit of freedom to fail and fail in a safe environment and then learn
Mhm.
from your failures and grow from that. Because once you enter the workforce, if you fail, it's going to be a little bit different, right? Like if you I don't know, get fired from your job, you're gonna have to figure out how to get a new job. If you're self-directing your learning, if you're still living with your parents, if you're, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 years old, or 18 like I am, you can fail and have a safe enough environment where you can learn from that and grow from that and know what to do better in the future.
Amen. I absolutely love your approach to failures and mistakes, which is something that I work with my students almost on a daily basis. Because today's students, they are terrified by any failures. Even if they got a B, it's like the end of the world,
Right.
right? And they're so terrified. I love to hear how what a healthier approach, way healthier approach that you have toward failures and mistakes. It's just like really fascinating. So I want to kind of follow up on this. So most people are not like you, right? Like, most people go to traditional school. So how do you navigate in an environment, at least in our society,
Mm.
where most people think that you have to receive formal education in order to succeed in life? So with you being so different, so disruptive, a disruptor, so how do you navigate this social environment?
Yeah, it's a little tricky because there are some people who, they see what I'm doing, they see that I'm taking a very untraditional path of education and they wonder like how are you going to succeed in life, how are you going to get a job, how are you going to sustain yourself. But for me it's just reminding them that there are multiple ways you can go to, I'd say, get a job. That would be our definition of success right here, to get a job. One of those ways is you can go through high school, you can do all the classes, you can go through college, do all the classes, you can get a degree, and then you can go to college. Another way is you can gain experience, you can gain
Mhm.
skills that are necessary for that job. You can volunteer, you can interview people, you can read about it, and then, you know, in the same position, show the skills you have, the projects you've done, the different portfolio of your interests and your skill set and the books you've read, the people you've talked to, and say, yeah, I don't have a degree, but I do have all these skills that are needed for this job. I do have all this experience that is needed for this job. And it's hard for some people to wrap their head around, my grandparents in particular, because they grew up in an age where if you're African American and you did not have a degree, um, you probably weren't going to do so well in life. But that has shifted, and to the point where now, yes, degrees still help, but they're not necessary. And so that's what I try to tell people is that yes, degrees help, but they're not necessary to success.
Sorry, I just lost Wi-Fi for some strange reason.
Oh
Can
no.
you still hear me?
Yes, I can. Uh-oh. Hmm. Hmm.
Can you hear me, Olivia?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Sorry, I seem to have some really, really bad Wi-Fi. I have no idea what happened.
You're good.
If you can hear me, I'm
I
just
can.
going to ask another question because it
Okay.
seems like it's only on my end. The Wi-Fi is not working.
Okay.
And so sorry, I have no idea what happened.
You're
And
good.
so, yeah, so tell us more about your book. And I have the book here. And what inspired you? I know you mentioned earlier that you really love writing. So, what inspired you to write this?
Yeah. Um, so like I said before, in my first year self-directing my learning, around 6 months in, my dad introduced me to this book writing program. I think a friend of his on LinkedIn was in the program, and so was just talking to him about it. And so he suggested that it would be a really interesting experience you know, gain skills in writing a book, to interview people, to learn about a particular topic. Um, and so I decided to like check it out. And one of the questions that they asked before you entered the program is like, what are three topics that you could find an interesting intersection between? And so I was thinking about it. Like I didn't really know which three topics. I thought it would be cool to write a book. I didn't really know what I'd write it about. Um, oh no. Okay, well I'm gonna keep talking. Um, okay. Um, yeah, but where was I? Yeah, and so I was thinking about it, and so for me, I've been a lover of nature, of the marine world specifically, for as long as I can remember. And then I have also been an athlete since I was 6 years old. And so those two things were two of my interests that have been longstanding. And the topics of the book are mental health, sports, and nature. And the way I came between those three topics is I just happened to see a video or an advertisement for the HBO documentary The Weight of Gold, directed by Michael Phelps, around how many Olympians struggle with post-Olympic depression. And then, like simultaneously, like in the same week or the same day, I saw a post that was talking about how there have been several different studies that shown how nature can benefit our mental health. And so, because sports have been something that I've been passionate about for a long time, and nature similarly has been something I've been passionate about for a long time, I saw it as an overlap. Mental health, sports, and nature. And so, my book is around how nature can play a role in strengthening the mental health of elite athletes. It is applicable to everyone, but for me specifically, since I'm an athlete, I've struggled with mental health issues myself, and I love nature. This was something that I felt really drawn to. Yeah, so it was a year long program. I really went all out and like kind of kind of hurt myself a little bit how much I wrote and how in a short time span I got the book published. But it was an incredible experience, just interviewing people, learning about the marketing behind the book. Um, the editing process, the writing process. Yeah. So I don't know if anyone's watching, because I can't really see behind the scenes. I just know that Dr. I is no longer here. I'm going to reach out to her real quick and see what's up.
Olivia, can you hear
Yes.
me or see me? Oh my
Hey,
goodness.
everyone.
I just lost Wi-Fi.
Oh
Yes. So right now I'm on my phone. So I
no. Okay.
actually heard you talking, but I was like, I was here. I was on the backstage. You are amazing. This is what we're talking about, resilience, right? Most of my students, they will be like freaking out. My goodness, how can I tell you here? How so thank you for keep the conversation going. That's just
Yeah.
like I have no idea why I lost Wi-Fi, but we are really, really live, technology. Yes, but you
Yeah.
can hear me everything, right?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. I heard you
Okay.
talk about your books. That is really fascinating. So thanks for sharing that with me. So
Yeah.
as you are writing your book, I know even many of my friends, they have the ambition to write a book, but it's a very challenging journey. So as an 18-year-old, I'm sure it's not easy, right? So what are some challenges that you have encountered as you work on this book project, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah. So one of the best things about the program was that it was it was a group, it was a community. And so writing a book alone is not advised. That's going to be really, really challenging. Just because there are going to be days where you just lose motivation. You're like, man, this is really hard. I just can't get the words out. But part of the reason why I was able to do it is because the program really helped me with deadlines. So they'd set a deadline, like I think one of them was June 25th. You need to have your first draft complete and manuscript sent in. And so I was like, all right, I just got to get these ideas on paper. They don't have to be perfect, but I just got to get them out as well as I can. And then there was also other people that were doing the program with me, and we'd text or we'd email each other and check in. There's one lady who I actually interviewed for my book. She's also writing another book, and was just a huge support to me throughout the process. And so those were some of the biggest challenges, just like finding the motivation to continue. So that was why the community part was so helpful, because whenever I was like, man, I'm wiped, it was like, okay, well, I still have this deadline. I still gotta submit my manuscript. Like, let's just try an hour or half an hour or just 15 minutes. Let's just get some work on the paper so I can keep doing a little bit every day. There's some days where I'd be writing like 3-4 hours a day. Obviously I couldn't do that every single day, but just trying to continue the little baby steps as long as I could. It's something that is trying to carry forward from that book writing process into other areas of life, like whether I'm trying to work out more to help out with my swimming, or doing, I don't know, art, trying to, I don't know, gain more skills in painting or something like that. Just doing a little bit every day I wrote a book by doing that. So it makes a lot of difference.
That's amazing. How long did it take you to complete this book?
Yeah, so the full process was a year. The manuscript, my first draft, was probably 3 or 4 months. So I went all out. And it's a 40,000 word book, so it's not super long, but it's not a baby either. So yeah, I wrote a lot of words in a very short amount of time, and then obviously I went through like a 4-month editing process to clean up mistakes and just unnecessary content and things like that. But yeah.
So what are some lessons that you have learned from this incredible journey?
Yeah, I think just business lesson, just kind of what I was saying before, is the importance of community. It's something that I've struggled with a little bit, just because um, in school, all your friends are gonna be right there, your teachers gonna be right there, you're gonna see them every day. So that community is kind of set in stone. When you're self-directing your learning, it's much more you need to be much more intentional about it, just because either you're going to be at home or maybe you go to a coffee shop, but not everyone's going to be in the exact same location at the exact same time.
Mm.
So finding that community to do it alongside. So whether it's my sister or whether it's my dad, or let's say my grandparents are going to a coffee shop, I join them. And I'm like, okay, this is what I got to do when I'm here. You guys have your own things that you're going to do. I have my own thing that I'm going to do, but we're going to work together, and we're going to, help each other, just be that moral support for one another. I think that aspect of community is really important, and something that it's kind of has been a little tricky for me to learn, but looking back on my book writing process, it made all the difference.
I love it. So what I'm hearing from you is really a very high level of self-control, a very high level of self-discipline, which
Mhm.
reminds me, I think it was last year I interviewed this really amazing parenting expert on this show, Dr. Leonard Sachs, and he wrote so many books. So I will never forget. So he did one study, and he mentioned one study, which is a
Mhm.
longitudinal study. So they identified 5 factors, and which involve like grades, academic excellence, like friendliness, openness to new ideas, self-control. Maybe I'm forgetting some. So they try to identify which factor will actually I predict students' long-term wealth, health, happiness, and self-control. Not great, not openness to new ideas, but self-control is the single most important factor that determines a kid long-term. Like we're talking about 30 years longitudinal study. So what I'm
Right.
hearing from you is a high level of self-control. So that's amazing. And it took me years to really build up my own self-control muscle. So from someone like you, with all those distractions, do you ever feel distracted in your life with, I think that's a challenge for lots of people. Oh yeah, Olivia, you can do it. I can't do it. If there's Wi-Fi, there's computer game, there's social media, just like so many distractions. Do you ever run into that challenge? If you do, like how do you stay disciplined to your goal?
Yeah. No, social media is that is definitely a big distraction. So I have a lot of different like features on my phone and computer to help limit the amount of time I use on social media. I think right now, like YouTube is like I think 20 minutes a day. So Instagram is 20 minutes a day. Um, and I think it's another part of community. Like I know if I'm in my bedroom alone, it's gonna be a
Mm,
lot easier to like pull up YouTube, watch some videos. If I hear someone, I can switch over tabs or something like that. But if I'm in a coffee shop or I'm in a room with my siblings and my parents and we're all working together, it's gonna be easier for me to do the work that I need to do instead of going on social media. And it's also like if I have way too much free stuff. So another thing I have learned from the book writing process is the importance of deadlines for me. So if I have a lot of
mm,
deadlines that I'm working towards, if my schedule is busy but not overwhelmingly busy where I don't think I can achieve anything, I will like I will have no interest of social media because I'm like, okay, I have this to do, I have this to do, I have this to do, I have this to do. Like maybe after everything's done, I'll watch a little bit on YouTube or something like that. But right now, I don't have any time
mm.
for that. So I think that's another thing is creating a system where you have deadlines and you have different marks to meet has been really beneficial to me because it helps streamline my time. It helps just like what you're saying about self-control, um, just control what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. So I'm not just like, okay, well, I have to complete this between now and 6 months from now. Well, I can watch some stuff now. I'll complete it later. Yeah.
That's amazing. I just like thumbs up, like kudos to you. I love it. I so agree, amazing. So I want to shift our gears because I'm afraid I may lose my Wi-Fi again. So I definitely want to talk about this. So you created this. Could tell us more about this. Black Life, Blue World.
Yes. So Black Life Blue World is kind of my brand name, I guess. blackliketheworld.com is my website, and what I have on my website is, or my dream for my website is to provide a space for people who are like me, who are interested in being different, challenging the norm, and pursuing their unique interests, to provide a space where they're like, okay, like someone does this too, almost like a community of rebels, I might say, or self-directed learners, difference makers. And then I have a twofold dream in my just the things that I do in my life. One of it is like what I was saying with Black Life Blue World, creating a space for people to embrace their differences. So inspiring people to embrace the things that make them uniquely them and challenging conformity, things like that. And then my other dream is just doing something in the world of marine conservation. So like I was saying before, I love nature. I've been in love with nature for as long as I can remember, specifically in the marine world. And so using my skill set, particularly in visual and written communication, to inspire change in the world of marine conservation. And so that's where Black Life Blue World is, where kind of like the home base of where all my activities are. So I have blogs, I have videos, I have artwork. And it's just, for me, I created it, I think I was like 16 when I created it. I didn't really know what I wanted it to be. I just knew that there was a lot of ideas that I had, a lot of change that I wanted to make in the world, and I wanted somewhere to put it, and somewhere where people could see it and could talk with me about it and could connect and could find inspiration in it. So that's kind of what Black Life Blue World is.
It's fascinating. I have no doubt. I don't think you will ever go to college, but if you do decide to go to maybe master or advanced degree, they will be impressed, because I think more and more schools are looking for disruptors like you, not just conformists, right? Like we look at students, everyone has SAT, everyone has ACT, everyone has volunteer, everyone has community surveys, but there's really no sense of strong purpose. But what I'm hearing from you is your passion that just like warms my heart, that at such a young age you know exactly what you want to do and you are taking action. Now you have the freedom to work on your goals. It just makes me feel so happy to hear just everything you just told me, and give me so much hope for the future. Fascinating. Yeah. So yeah. So clearly, you and your sisters are very, like, I call those people disruptors. I love this. But how about your parents? Like, are your parents kind of like, hey, are you guys crazy? Or like, yeah, go for it. Are they also disruptors like you guys, super supportive, or they are like, I don't think they are conventional. So share us a little bit more with, because we have lots of parents watching the show. They were like, yeah, like, like, how do your parents respond to your non-conventional educational path?
Yeah, so my dad is, I guess you would say, a disruptor or a rebel, kind of like me. And so he has supported my journey and just kind of helped me with resources and different ideas and different, like I was saying before, stories of people who self-directed their learning or took a non-traditional educational path. And so he's supported my journey. I mean, both of them have supported my journey, but he's been more of the one who's like, all right, you are interested in self-directing your learning? All right, here's a good way to do it. My mom is a little bit more traditional. So she went to like Ivy League schools, medical school. She's a doctor. So she went more of the traditional route. My brother kind of followed that route, although he's interesting because he went the traditional route of high school, but continued to explore different interests outside of the classroom. So I think he's kind of a blend between me and a traditional student, whereas he took the traditional route but didn't only learn in school, like continued to learn outside of the classroom as well. But yeah, my mom has been much more traditional. It's kind of the question of like, okay, like maybe you can go to college next year or the year after. Like it's like, okay, we'll figure that out whenever we get there. But yeah.
It's so funny because my friend and I actually wrote a book titled "Skip the Degree, Save the Tuition." We're advocating a non-degree approach to have success, for happiness, doing what you love, to become people like you. So I'm curious, for your brother, like if he's going to a traditional high school, how, like, I think time is the biggest constraint, right? I recently watched this documentary called "Try Harder." Do you know this documentary?
I probably have seen clips of it from my dad, but not off the
You
top of my head.
know, Absolutely love it. I can even see that you do a reaction video, a reaction paper about the documentary. It's called Try Harder. So
Oh,
talking about a group of students in California, the whole goal for every single student in that school is to go to an Ivy League school. Everyone's goal is
mm,
like Stanford, It, it is so sad for me to watch that documentary. First of all, everyone is super stressed. They have no
mm,
time outside the classroom to do whatsoever. Their life's purpose is go to an Ivy League school. So can you
mm.
imagine once they really get either they get accepted, they will have really no life goals moving forward, or they feel like complete failure if they don't get into Stanford. And so I'm
Right.
curious for someone like your brother, if he is a traditional student, how does he manage, especially for high school? The amount of homework is insane. So how does he balance between, like, I don't know if this is a fair question toward you, but if you do know the answer, how does he balance between kind of managing everything at school with an insane amount of work versus like still keeping his interests, passions alive?
Yeah. Yeah, so my brother is actually he's older than me, so he's already graduated from high school, but I will say that the first 3 years of high school, it was tricky. Um, a lot less time spent on the things that he was interested in, a lot more time spent on homework. The school he went to was it does a lot of project-based learning. So we did have opportunities to do projects around his interests. So unlike the school I went to, I think his had a little bit more flexibility in terms of what he learned and what he was able to decide, like what projects to do. But I will say that during COVID, he like since all classes were online and stuff, so that was his last year of high school. All of our, or maybe last year and a half, all of our classes were online. He was able to finish his work in a relatively quick amount of time, and so had a lot of free time to do other stuff. And started playing the piano, and ended up playing the piano for almost like 3 hours every day. And
Oh,
is
wow.
now he's amazing. He's so musically talented. So he's composed several different songs on the piano. He learned guitar and is one of the members of the band at his church and university. So he goes to University of Virginia. So up in UVA, I think he plays guitar for the band at his church. He knows ukulele as well. So he is just also started writing a bunch of poems. So in during COVID, that opened up a huge window for him to explore. Without COVID, I don't know if I could say that he continued to explore interests outside of the classroom. But that just, for me, it just showed how valuable the space to get bored is, right? Because he was like, okay, well, what am I doing? Well, here's a piano. I guess I'll play around with it. Or, hey, that song, that sounded kind of nice. Let's keep figuring out how to do something like that. And so from COVID, he's just grown into this musically talented, poetically talented, crazy individual. But yeah.
I love that story. I so great. I even read articles talking about, even though, COVID is devastating, so many lives lost. That's extremely sad. On the other hand, COVID gives students lots of space, free time to really explore their interests. That makes me really happy. I agree with you, like feeling bored, actually have the free time to explore. Before we went live, I was just talking about my 8 years old. Now he's in summer camp, from one camp to another camp. He was just telling us, Mommy, Daddy, I literally have no time to do what I want to do, which is building stuff. So just think about, it reminds me of that TED talk. It's like a checklist childhood, right? Everybody's like checklist. Yeah, it's so overscheduled. So that's what makes your journey. You're just full of energy, so many ideas, a book, a website at such a young age. Most people are like, yeah, I don't have time for that. So I think that's just a fascinating. So to wrap things up, I love this interview. It's just so much. It's like so aligned. So where do you see yourself in the next year? Like what are some of your big goals? I know you mentioned a little bit the marine biology, but what are some specific goals that you have for this year or maybe next year that you want to share with us? And where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, so I actually on Monday started a program called Praxis. It's a college alternative program. So keeping in line with my ideas for self-directing your learning and staying untraditional, this program helps students and learners gain the skills that they need for the workplace without the money and the time commitment of college. And so the first like 6 months of the program, you do several different projects to build your portfolio, to gain skills in your area of interest. And then the second 6 months, you have a job with one of the businesses partner with the program. And so, like I was saying around with environmental conservation, marine conservation, I'm interested in marketing and communication and how to use marketing and communication for environmental conservation purposes. So this next year, I'm going to really go in depth around marketing and communication to learn more about that. And then hopefully from there, transition into specifically marketing and communication around environmental conservation. So started that program on, well, like yesterday. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It's enjoyable because I'm surrounded by people who think similarly to me, who understand that, college can be kind of a scam sometimes in terms of how much money it costs, and you get a degree, but you still don't have the experience. So you still need the experience before you really get a job. But instead, gaining those skills so that you can enter into the workforce saying, okay, I don't have a degree, but I have skills, I have experience, I have this really awesome portfolio. I can work for you and I can add value to your company. So that's the program I'm entering in. It's called Praxis. Really excited about it. And then in terms of where you can reach me, so I'm on LinkedIn, Olivia Grace Barnes, on Instagram, O_Grace_B. And then you can also reach out to me on my website, blacklifeblueworld.com.
I love it. You're so active on LinkedIn. So a quick follow-up question. How has LinkedIn changed your life?
Yeah. I think in terms of like interviews and like, I got a lot of connections, a lot of interviews for my book through LinkedIn. I have done a lot of interviews from LinkedIn. It's a networking powerhouse. And I think that's something that my dad has really emphasized. He joined LinkedIn a couple years ago and has kind of blown up because he's into education reform, and has been eager for us to try to continue networking and things like that. So LinkedIn has been, and I gotta get on there a little bit more, but LinkedIn has been huge in terms of building network, building connections, just learning from different people. Yeah.
It's amazing. That's amazing. I love it. The same thing, right? I also have so much after this conversation. I have so much respect for your dad, for your family. Like, they have done such an excellent job raising you. You are such an amazing young woman. I have no doubt that you're going to, whatever path that you are going to take, you're going to make a huge difference. So that is really, really inspiring to hear and to watch. I totally agree. College is not the only path to succeed in life. Yeah. So thank you so much, Olivia, for spending almost an hour with us. And I do want to apologize again for my Wi-Fi situation. Probably because you're dropping so much value. My Wi-Fi can't take this anymore. Cut.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, really, really enjoyable. I would definitely be continue to follow your journey on LinkedIn. So maybe even sometime you can come over to Classroom Awards and speak to some of my students, share your journey and, writing a book and doing all sorts of crazy, inspiring things. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So good luck with your program. And so enjoy the rest of your day. And everyone, thank you so much for watching this live and all social media channels. And I'm so sorry for the Wi-Fi situation, but it's definitely worth to watch and watch again because I really love Olivia and the passion, the joy. As an educator, I talk to so many students. They no longer have the spark in their eyes, which is so sad. So what I love so much about Olivia is like how much passion, how alive this lady is. So that I just like, I think that should be every kid around her age, like so young, so passionate about life. But anyway, so thank you so much for watching us live, and I will see you guys in another episode. And check out Olivia; she's actually quite active on LinkedIn, and that's how I discovered you. There's that LinkedIn post. There were literally like dozens of comments. Like, who is this social media LinkedIn superstar? So you guys definitely should follow her on LinkedIn. Let me just have her name on the screen one more time so you guys can check her out and follow her on LinkedIn and just support her, get a copy of her book, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much again, Olivia. I will see you online.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.